Chair. I can confirm that the meeting is now live.
Great. Welcome, everyone, to the Heritage Advisory Committee April 2nd meeting. I'd like to first call to order and make a land acknowledgement. So the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and territorial lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. All right, so approval of minutes. Is there any errors or admissions the committee would like to raise? Okay, is there a call for a motion to approve minutes? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes of last meeting? There's no comments on that.
Yeah, this can be anyone to just jump in and make a motion to approve the minutes, and then we just need one other person to second.
I can move those.
Thank you, Tim. And a seconder?
I will second.
Thanks, David. And so call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, so the motion carries. So for the approval of the order of business, is there any additions or deletions?
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that the clerk's office has received no requests for additions or deletions at this meeting. Unless members of any others to bring up, I believe we have none.
Is there any member who'd like to move any items? Okay, so I'll call for the motion to approve the order of business. I'll first need a mover.
I'll move.
And a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you. Call for the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so is there any direct business arising out of the minutes? I don't believe so. So is there any conflicts of interest that the members would like to declare? All right, moving on. There's no considerations of deferred business. Simon, was there any correspondence, petitions, or delegations?
Thank you, Chair. We've received no correspondence to distribute for this meeting and no petitions received through the clerk's office either.
Great. Any information items brought forward? None. All right, so first up will be agenda item 9.1.1, case H00567, the request to include 2552 Gottingen, Halifax in the Register of Heritage Property for the HRM. If you'd like to make the presentation, Shai Kui Gong.
Hi, just give me a second.
So for first,
All right. Good afternoon to the chair and the members for the Heritage Advisory Committee. Staff are pleased to bring before the committee case H00567, the heritage registration application for 2552 Gottingen Street in Halifax. In May 2023, an application was made by the property owner to consider the inclusion of 2552 Gottingen Street in the Registry of Heritage Property for the Halifax Regional Municipality. The property will hereafter be referred as simply 2552 Gottingen Street, or historically as 272 Gorges Street. The subject property is located within the proposed Bloomfield Heritage Conservation District as shown in the right map. This bird view picture can provide a better idea of its location. 2552 Gorges Street is located in the North End neighborhood on the western side of Gorges Street at the northeast corner of the intersection made by Gorges Street and North Street. The Heritage Advisor Committee is asked to score the subject property on the registration evaluation criteria before you. So, the first evaluation criterion is age. The construction of the subject dwelling was complete in 1895. According to the Registry of Deeds, Henry Bush, a Halifax architect, obtained a larger parcel of land on the northeast corner of the intersection of North Gorges and Crichton Street. Over a 10-year period, Bush subdivided the property into individual building lots. The present dwelling was built on one of these building lots on the west side of Gorges Street. William Davison, a boilermaker, purchased this subject property from Bush in 1896 and resides there since 1897. The 1896 city directory shows that there was an unoccupied house at 272 Gorges Street. The subject building appears on the 1895 fire insurance plan. Therefore, the construction date for the subject building is 1895. Based on the construction date of 1895, staff recommends a score of 13 points for ages.
Great. So do we have any thoughts on the number 13 or any other recommendations? Do we agree that 13 would be a fair number?
Yes, I do.
Any concerns with going with 13? All right, so 13 it is.
So the second evaluation criterion is the architecture importances for the representative of an era. During the later part of the 19th century and the early 20th centuries, Gorges Street began to develop further north as the citizens of Halifax began to construct new residences. Gorges Street helped to connect business and the suburb together and become the main thoroughfare of the North End. In early 19th centuries, North End, many prospective merchants built large estates in North End, Halifax. The land and the open field surrounding these estates were divided into smaller lots and filled with compact houses for working classes. This compact and land-efficient home often adopt a plain architecture style with simple box shapes, while still decorating the facade with features from Italian styles or Second Empire styles. These styles came to be known as Halifax box. 2552 Gorges Street was as a great example for these styles. Has a simple plan with features such typical features such as two-story bay windows and decorative elements on the facade. The style can be found in many places of Halifax and Dartmouth. However, they represent the trend of a versatile house on the compact urban lot during the suburban development of the later 19th centuries. So the staff recommends a score between 11 and 15 points for the architecture importances from an era.
So to the committee, where would we like to kind of score this? Any thoughts?
I think I would be happy with a 15 because I think this building is quite representative of the 1890s and of the Halifax box style, and it is distinctive, and it's something that you recognize when you see it when you're driving on Goggin Street off of North. So to me, I would have that on the higher end personally.
Great. And any other comments? David, I agree. So does anyone have any concerns with giving the score 15?
No, I agree with that.
Great, thanks, Tim. Go with 15.
The third evaluation criterion is for the significance of architects. Henry Bush was a well-known local architect who bought and subdivided the land located at the southeast corner of North Street and Gottschalk Street. This lot was filled with Halifax box buildings that share a similar design. Therefore, it's reasonable to assume that Bush's firm designed and built these buildings. Bush came to Nova Scotia in the late 1850s and became a draftsman with the well-known Halifax architect Henry Eller's firm. The apprenticeship changed to a full partnership from 1863 to 1877, after which time the firm of Elliott and Bush was divided, and both architects launched their own business. Many buildings designed by Henry Bush still stand today and have become landmarks of Halifax. Some of the most significant works include the Victoria Hall and the Fernburn on Gottschalk Street, the Church of England Institute on Barrington Street, and the Halifax Academy, the welfare buildings, and Salvation Arms Citadel on the Brunswick Street, which formed a trial of Second Empire building. Bush's design can also be found outside of Halifax. Some important examples include the town hall buildings in the town of Lunenburg, and the Normal College in Truro. So, the architect Henry Bush is of provincial significance. Staff recommends a score between 4 and 6 points.
Thank you. And with significance of the architect, what kind of numbers does the committee believe?
I think it would be at the high end of the provincially significant, because that's a number of provincially significant buildings we just saw. So I'd say 6.
I agree with 6. I agree with 6 myself.
Great. Thank you, David. I agree with 6. Is there anyone opposed to scoring at a 6? No? Great. 6.
The next criterion for A is architectural merit for the construction type. 2552 Gottschalk Street is a 2-story building of balloon-framed construction with an L-shaped plan. Balloon filming used dimensional rubbers and manufactured nails, and is particularly notable for the long, continuous stars from tall and old trees, which run from the foundation to the roofs. This framing method was fast and cheaper than the traditional timber framing, but was replaced by the platform framing from the 1930s. The house was built atop a stone and brick foundation. The outside walls are clad in wood shingles with a near flat roof. For these reasons, staff recommends a score between 1 and 3 points.
Any thoughts on the scoring of architectural merit?
Through the chair to the members is only is only a sub-criteria for the architectural merit, only for construction type.
Thank you. So for construction type, how do we feel in the 1-3 range? No, my thoughts.
I'll be happy with a 2 in regards to it. You know, it's unique, but it's nice. It's quite common to other houses of that style, so I'll give it a 2.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there any other thoughts?
I think 2 is fine.
Yeah, I agree with 2. It's, middle of the road. Is there anyone who would offer a different number, or are we good with 2? 2 it is. Hooray.
So the criterion 4B is the architectural merit for the styles. As mentioned before, 2552 Gardiner Street is a good example for the Halifax styles, also known as the late Victorian plan styles. It is a practical plan design that prevalent in the late 19th centuries and early 20th centuries. Elements in this building which are characteristic of the style includes 2-story wood-framed Halifax box residence with an L-shaped plan and asymmetric 2-bay facade. The 2-story bay windows composite of 2 sets of 3 1/1 wood-framed windows with simple trims, small interstitial cornice with plan frieze and medallions, and paneling below the sills. Cornice supported by 2 large curbers. Stone and brick foundation with universal joints at the bay window. Wood shingle cladding. Overall, the subject building is a typical representative of the Halifax box style, and the building features are moderately real, and the staff recommend a score between 4 and 6 points.
So is the brick in front of the stone? Like, I'm trying to see the pictures in the back, and you see a bit of a stone under the back end of one of the houses. But so would the stone be behind all this brick work? I'm trying to look underneath the step where you can see some gray, where the gray paint is not all underneath there. And just trying to distinguish. You see some rock in it, but I wasn't sure if there was a cornerstones or what.
To the community. Through the chair to the committee, and the foundation was built by rocks and bricks. Only the facade side of the foundation was bricked, and our other portion of the foundation is built by iron stones.
So I'm kind of wondering is the brick?
There is no.
So my wondering is the brick a replacement of the stone that was there before, and then replaced with brick?
No, it is originally built with a brick.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I can see what Councillor Hensby is referring to. If you look at the sidewalk in the image, I think from there down you would have a stone foundation, and it looks like what you would see if you were looking at the house from the street from above that seems to be brick. So I think stone on the bottom and then brick above that.
Okay. Well, I give it a score of 5, between 4 and 6. I give it a 5.
I agree with 5. That makes sense to me.
Any other thoughts, or are we good with 5? I think 5's great.
So our 5th evaluation criterion is the property's architectural integrity. 2552 Gardiner Street exhibits a high level of architectural integrity with respect to the layout and character-defining elements, with some modest modification on the exterior. The layout of the building is unchanged with the original L-shaped plan. Comparing 2552 Gottsched Street with the adjacent heritage building at 2548 Gottsched Street, which was built at the same time by Henry Busch. It appears that 2552 Gottsched Street may have undergone some facade modifications. Those potential changes include the absence of a dentile cornice on the second floor, missed dentile decoration on the bay window of the second floor, the absence of the pilaster and the corbel on the second floor, and the absence of ornament of decorative side lights, transom lights, and trims around the entry door. There are some alteration on the back of the building as well. This including an expanded door and new windows on the rear ear, replacing the originals. Additionally, a window on the south side of the rear extension was moved to a new position and replaced with a vinyl window. Another window on the same side has been removed. It should be noted that these changes are not visible from the public view, as they are located on the back part of the building within the property's backyard. Overall, the subject building has modest change on the exterior, and the staff recommend a score between 6 and 10 points.
All right, so based on architectural integrity, I believe there is some modest changes to the street street side of the building. Do we have any thoughts on scoring?
I thought more of the changes were more in the back of the house. I didn't think there's that much in the front, but I'd give it a mid-range score of a 7 or 8. I think that the front is rather still intact. I'd love to see it all get a new paint job and stuff, but I think the back is the only place where it changed with the addition of the house and the changing of a couple windows in the back.
Mm-hmm.
They still got the old wooden frame windows in the front.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts on scoring?
I think I could get behind an 8 on that.
Yeah, I could get behind an 8. Anyone else have any inputs, or do we think an 8 would be appropriate? Is there anyone concerned with an 8? Eight it is.
So the sixth and our final evaluation criterion is the property's relationship to the surrounding area. The immediate surrounding of 2552 Gottsched Street consists of low-rise residential use. Most buildings in this area are two stories and either single detached houses or condos, except only one 3-story apartment at the corner of Gottsched Street and North Street. The east side of Gottsched Street and the north side of North Street and the south half of the block are zoned as high-order residential, which allows low to medium-rise residential buildings. And these areas are inhabited by taller, denser apartments and commercial buildings. 2552 Gottsched Street is located within the proposed Bloomfield Heritage Conservation District, which has largely intact and continuous tree-lined streetscape. Along with the Gottsched Street, there are several heritage properties. Building F, G, H, and I are large houses built by the wealthy merchants in early 19th centuries. Building J, the Victoria Hall, is a second Empire-style building designed by Henry Busch, the same architect of the subject building. As mentioned earlier, local architect Henry Busch divided his land into several smaller lots and built built several smaller buildings. Many of them are registered heritage properties right now, including Building A, Henry Bush House, which was his primary residency, and Building C, Walter J. Bush House, which was the home of Henry's son, Walter Henry, who was also an architect. Building E, Leo Furze House, is adjacent to the subject properties. So those photos show two late Victorian streetscape formed by those buildings divided from Henry's lot. There are three late Victorian houses on North Street, formed a beautiful streetscape, and they are all registered heritage properties. 4 Halifax blocks, including the subject building, formed another late Victorian streetscape on Gottingen Street, and only 2548 Gottingen Street is a registered heritage building. For these reasons, the subject building is an important architectural asset to the heritage character of the surrounding area, and the staff recommend a score between 6 and 10 points.
I say a 9 because I think it fits in with the district. It fits in with the other houses, especially the cluster of Bush houses there. I think it's a great addition to keep the integrity of that zone together. I think it just adds to the atmosphere to the neighborhood.
I agree with that, Councillor.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
I'll
agree.
agree with that as well.
I agree with the 9 as well. It's important to the fabric of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's an interesting street.
Yeah. So, all good with a 9? Any opposed to that?
So,
And it is.
the recommendations are now before the committee for consideration. Should the subject property score 50 or more points on evaluations, staff advise the committee to proceed in making the following 2 recommendations to council. And thank you.
All right. So, looks like we scored 58. Great. Let me go. All right. Bear with me for one moment. So, let's call for the motion. Do we have so let's make a call for the motion. Is there any mover?
I'll move that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommend the Regional Council to set a heritage hearing to consider the inclusion of a subject property in the Registry of Heritage Properties for the Halifax Municipality, and 2, approve the request to include 2552 Gottingen Street, Halifax, in the Registry of Heritage Properties for the Halifax Municipality, as shown in Map 1 of the January 16, 2024 report as a municipal heritage building under the Heritage Property Act.
And a seconder?
I'll second that.
Thank you, David. All right. Any questions, concerns before we put this to a vote? All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Gong.
Thank you.
And next up is item 9.1.2, case H00568. The request to include 5561 Cogswell Street, Halifax, in the Registry of Heritage Properties for the HRM. And the staff will be Elizabeth Cushing. I invite you to make the presentation.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair and members of the Heritage Advisory Committee. My name is Elizabeth Cushing, and I'm a heritage planner, and I will be presenting the 5561 Cogswell Street Heritage Registration Request. The subject property is situated on the north side of Cogswell Street in the block bound by Maynard and Creighton Streets. The property is being considered under the evaluation criteria for the registration of heritage buildings in Halifax Regional Municipality, which assesses a property based on the following criteria: So similar to my colleague's presentation, I will be presenting the findings for each criterion and pause after each one to provide some time for the committee to discuss their score. The subject property was originally the west portion of Lot 1, letter E, on the plan of division of Maynard's Field. Maynard's division was one of the first subdivisions west of Gottingen Street. Thomas M. Wiswell, a carpenter, purchased the property from Captain Maynard in 1847. The property subsequently sold to John Hull, who was also a carpenter that following year. The deed for this transaction references an unfinished cottage on the property. So given its circa 1847 to 48 construction date, staff recommend a score of 16 points for age.
Any thoughts on the recommended points?
Can't argue with that.
No.
Let's go
clear.
for 16.
Any opposed to 16? All right, 16.
Great, thank you. The subject property provides a unique example of a structure that was modified from a Scottish vernacular house, which defined much of the surrounding area's development during the mid-1800s, to a three-story building with Victorian plain design elements. The latter style typically included low-pitched or virtually flat roofs, simple box form, and minimal decoration. Isabel Grant modified the house circa 1914 to its current three-story massing and operated a boarding house out of the subject property. This modification is reflective of a major population boom within the Creighton's Field area during the turn of the century, which required the adaptive reuse of the predominantly 1.5 to 2-story housing stock. So as a unique example of both the Scottish vernacular and Victorian plain style, staff recommend a score of 11 to 15.
Any discussion on the how we would like to score this, on the importance of the architecture?
I'd like to propose 15. I think it's a beautiful combination of the two styles, and it's a really distinct building.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Is there any other suggestions for the scoring? We're all happy with 15?
Any idea what the original structure looked like?
Yeah, I'll just go through. Let's see. I meant to put this a little bit earlier in the presentation, but through the chair to the committee, the photo here on this slide, that shows what the original structure would have been like. So just a 1.5 story with Scottish dormers. There's still kind of a molded hood trim around the windows that's still evident in the structure today. We'll discuss a little bit more about the changes, but this is generally the form that it would have taken.
Thank you.
$15, okay.
Yeah, okay, 15. Go with that.
All right.
Great, thank you. The residence at 5561 Cogswell Street was constructed by carpenters Thomas Master Wiswell and John Hall. Minimal information can be found on either carpenter. However, both contributed to the local architectural form of mid-19th century Halifax. The property was also restored by the prominent heritage carpenter Hal B. Forbes, who contributed greatly to the visual identity and the revitalization of North End Halifax's built environment through his heritage carpentry work and numerous restorations throughout the surrounding neighborhood. Forbes' contributions to the property include the prominent cornice with decorative wood elements and brackets. So staff recommend a score of 1 to 3 for the local significance of the builders.
Any thoughts on?
3, because I think we seen previous work of Mr. Forbes and rehabilitation of homes and stuff, and he was quite an artisan at it.
Agreed. Any thoughts on anything other than 3? No. All right, 3 it is.
Great, thank you. 5561 Cogswell Street is a 3-story building, likely of timber frame, wooden construction with an irregular plan. Timber frame construction predates dimensional lumber and employs wooden joinery techniques such as mortise and tenon to secure large timbers rather than using nails or other metal hardware. Timber frame construction technology is consistent with the building's age and is now considered rare. As such, staff recommend a score of between 7 and 10 points.
What do we feel the score in this between 7 and 10?
Construction type with a wood frame. Is that what you're saying?
Through the chair to the committee members, yes, it's timber frame construction.
Okay. I'd put it as an 8.
Yeah, I can get behind an 8.
I think I'm good with an 8.
All right, let's go with an 8.
Great, thank you. The semi-detached 3-story building at 5561 Cogswell Street was constructed in the Scottish vernacular style with circa 1914 modifications to create its present-day Victorian plain exterior. The character-defining elements of the property include, but are not limited to, the 3-story Victorian plain style wood-framed building with Scottish vernacular elements, the windows with bracketed molded hoods on the 1st story, and the entrance with transom side lights and molded entablature on the south elevation and the minimal setback from the public right-of-way. As an example of a boarding house displaying both Scottish vernacular and Victorian plain styles, staff recommend a score of 4 to 6.
What are we thinking for scoring?
I'll have it a 5.
I'd suggest a 5 as well.
Okay, let's go with 5.
Yeah, 5's okay.
All right, 5 it is.
Great, thank you. In terms of integrity, the property at 5561 Cogswell Street has a good level of architectural integrity. Of course, as we said, the structure was originally a 1.5-story, 3-bay vernacular cottage with Scottish dormers. The 2 additional stories were added between the 1911 and 1914 fire insurance plans during the Grant family's tenure on the property. There are several houses in the neighborhood that added stories during this time frame, including the immediately neighboring property at 2010 Creighton Street, as well as 2035 and 2092 Creighton Street. At that time, these modifications were a result of the overcrowding in Creighton's field. Based on visual assessment and historical documentation, other modifications to the structure include the reduced size of the windows on the south elevation, replacement of the south elevation doors and stairs leading up to it. There's parging of the rubble stone foundation with concrete, and there's additions of single-leaf entrances at the rear of the building, which are not visible from the public right-of-way. There is a rear addition, but this has been visible since the 1878 fire insurance plan. Al Forbes is likely to have added the prominent cornice with brackets and decorative wood detailing during his tenure on the property between 2003 to 2017. So although there has been a significant alteration to the structure through the addition of the full 2nd and 3rd stories, these additions took place at the turn of the 20th century and can be considered character-defining elements in their own right. So as such, staff recommend a score of 6 to 10 for integrity.
Any thoughts on score?
I would give it an 8, but what I kind of liked is the building that got built beside it kind of pays homage to the design. So it was kind of blends the 2 buildings together. So I think it's nice that the building beside it to the east of it kind of mimics the design a little.
Yeah,
I like the cornices in place. I'd put it as an excuse me. I'd put it as an 8 or 9. It's
thank you. And
I think I'm leaning towards a 9 on that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, let's go with a 9.
What does everyone think?
I'm good with the 9.
with the 9.
Works for me.
Any opposed to 9? All right, we'll go for 9.
Great, thank you. 5561 Cogswell Street has a strong contextual relationship with the contiguous Creighton's Field neighborhood, which is a proposed heritage conservation district. The area is characterized by intact, contiguous streetscapes of small-scale workers' housing dating from the Georgian and Victorian periods of the 19th century. 5561 Cogswell Street is a unique example of both time periods, having originally been a Scottish vernacular-style 1.5-story cottage to its current Victorian plain style. The property also has visual and historical associations with other surrounding properties which have been restored by Hal Forbes, including but not limited to 5565 Cogswell Street and 2010, 2031, and 2096 Creighton Street, the latter two also being registered heritage properties. So for its visual, physical, and historical relationship with the neighboring 19th to early 20th century residential buildings, which are of a similar style and age, staff recommend a score of 6 to 10 points.
It definitely fits well with the surrounding area. So do we have any thoughts on the score?
Should be at the higher end, I would think. As high as 10, but
I'd give it at least an 8. So 8, 10, might as well give it a 9. Fall in between.
Yeah, I like 9.
9 here.
Anyone opposed to 9? No, so let's go with 9.
Great, thank you. Oh, my apologies, I don't have the recommendation in my slideshow. Might have to get that from the clerk's office if we can.
4 to 65, I believe, the math.
Right.
That's
65.
correct, and I can share the motion there for any member who would like to read it.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Elizabeth Cushing. Do we have a mover for the motion?
I have it in front of me that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommends read to Council. 1, set a date for Heritage hearing to consider the inclusion of the subject property in the Registry of Heritage Properties for the Halifax Regional Municipality. And 2, approve the request to include 5561 Cogswell Street, Halifax, in the Registry of Registry Properties for the Halifax Regional Municipalities, as shown in Map 1 of the March 14th, 2024 report, as a municipal heritage property under the Heritage Property Act. So duly moved.
And a seconder?
I second that.
Great. So any questions, comments, concerns? All right, and let's put it to a vote. All in favor of the motion?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. So the next item is any committee member updates. I believe there's none. Any added items? I believe there's none. And the date of the next meeting is April 17th, 2024. Do we have a mover to adjourn?
I'll move that.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.